What's up everybody, Cody Bidlow with sprintingworkouts.com and ATHLETE.X. Today I'm out here at the track doing a little bit of a sprint capacity workout. Also Shingai was out here doing acceleration and speed work, and then a subscriber, Dave, was out here doing some acceleration work with the sled. So it's always nice to meet you guys, whether it's at meets, at the track, or something like that. So if you ever see me at a meet or anything like that, feel free to say hi. I'm always happy to meet you guys and say what's up. So for today's workout, I did a sprint capacity workout. I chose 60 meters as my distance, and I did 3 sets of 3. For the first set, I did 2.5 minutes in between each rep, and then I took about 8 or 10 minutes between the sets. Then I bumped it up to 3 minutes per rep for the second set, and then 3 to 4 minutes for the last set. I managed to run about 1/10 of a second faster than I did last week, and last week I was only able to run 3 fly 30s, so to be able to then do 9 and for most of the workout be 1/10 or more faster than I was last week, I think is a good sign that my body is getting back into shape, that I'm really recovering from COVID, and that things are looking good for the future. Now, if you like training like this, if you like these types of workouts, make sure to check out my links below. I got programs on my website and an online training group that you can join where you get access to my Discord server where you can ask questions. You'll get workouts delivered every week to your phone, so make sure to check that out below. Now, for Shingai's workout, he did acceleration, did some block starts, things like that. So even though he's a triple jumper, he still trains for the sprints, because as a jumper, you need to be able to A, run fast in your approach, B, be able to maintain the speed at which you can run in your approach for up to 6 jumps in a competition. C, you want to have that technique be really well honed, so that way all of your approaches are very consistent from a technique standpoint. And then also you want to have some speed reserve, because if you can improve your speed so that your 100% improves, whatever your 100% is over 30 meters or whatever, say you improve that and now you can run faster over 30 meters. Well, when you're in competition approaching the board in a jump, if you can then run at 95 or 98%, your sub-maximal sprinting is now going to be faster than it used to be, and it's going to be easier to maintain that over the whole competition. So I think as for jumpers, it's really good to do speed and acceleration work. Now, that's not really news to anybody, but I think when you see someone who's a good jumper doing that type of work, it's a good reminder that as jumpers, it's not just about how you hit the board, it's not just about how you complete the jump itself, it's also what you do leading up to that, and how well conditioned are you for the demands of that approach. Now, as far as my workout is concerned, my goal was to work on sprint capacity overall, since I took time off and my overall speed is not great at the moment. Working on capacity is something that I think is pretty beneficial. Similar to the idea with a jumper, if you can improve your capacity for sprinting, so that way if you can run 9 60s and you can do them all at 7 seconds, well, when you then increase the rest period, give yourself more recovery, and overall are intensifying your training, then it's going to be a lot easier to run 6 9s or 6 8s, albeit at a lower number of total reps. It's going to be easier to run faster for a greater number of reps if you've done some amount of capacity work with regards to a specific sprint distance. So in preparation for the indoor season, 60 meters, give or take 10 or 20 meters, I think is a good range to work in for sprint capacity. Now, if you're newer to sprinting, maybe doing this with 40-meter sprints is a good way to go, or if you're a very experienced sprinter, maybe going out to 70 or 80 meters is a good way to go for this workout. Maybe you just do 60s, then you progress up to 70s or 80s over time. But either way, being able to repeatedly run pretty fast, I think, is something that is worth doing, and that can be a good precursor to then running less reps at a faster pace. So say right now I'm running 3.0 over the 30-meter fly, but my best is 2.8 in a 30-meter fly. Well, if I can run 9 reps at 3.0, or I can run 12 reps at 3.0, or maybe high 2.9s, then when I start to increase the rest periods in between each rep, improve my recovery between sessions, because right now I'm in an accumulation phase, so the density of my training is a little higher, the volume is a little bit higher. Today I came into this session sore from doing front squats and power snatches and reverse hypers and things like that yesterday. So I'm not coming into this session at a true 100% as far as recovery is concerned. So knowing that, I can come into this session thinking, okay, my goal is not to PR for time, but what I could do is try to PR for my average time over the number of reps. So let's say last year when I did a similar workout as this, I could only hit 3.1 as an average time for the whole session. Maybe some were faster, maybe some were slower. Well, if I can then improve that to 3.0, high 2.9s, maybe low 2.9s, well, then that's a sign that overall I'm getting into better shape with regards to the specific sprint distance that is the 60 meters. So I think we can use sprint capacity workouts during the preseason or during the off season as a way to work on the technique of sprinting, to work on the specific energy systems that are related to running fast over a short distance. We can push ourselves, from a conditioning standpoint by keeping the rest periods a little bit short in between the reps, a little bit longer between the sets. And that can set us up to then intensify our training naturally over time as we get closer to season. So like I said, I'm in an accumulation phase right now. So my lifts in the gym are slightly bigger ranges of motion, doing a little bit more work overall, trying to get stronger, get more powerful. But over time, those lifts can become slightly shorter ranges of motion, focus more on reactive strength, be less fatiguing overall. And then coming into my sprint sessions, when I intensify my training, I'll be a little bit more fresh. And then within the sessions themselves, I can increase the rest periods. So between each rep, I'm becoming more recovered, so I can run each rep faster. Maybe I work up to doing, 12 of these or 15 of these 60s as I go through an accumulation phase. And then when I drop to an intensification phase, maybe I'm only doing 6 by 60, but I can do those 6 60-meter sprints at a faster pace for each of them. And then I'm intensifying my training. Then you can go back to an accumulation cycle if you want, or you can just keep intensifying your training over time. That's up to you. That's kind of the art of coaching and program design. But I would say don't be afraid to push the rest periods a little bit during this time of the year, so that way you can work on capacity while maintaining the skills related to running the 60. Because if you think about it, say I'm running these 60s, close to 7 seconds. Not a PR by any stretch of the imagination, but still relatively fast. You can be working on your acceleration pattern. You can be working on, your rise and your posture throughout the whole sprint. You can be working on running fast over the last 30 of the sprint. But then you push yourself a little bit with regards to the recovery times, and you can get a nice blend of working the specific skill, working the specific energy systems, but then leaving some room on the table to intensify your training over time. One issue that I've run into in the past is intensifying my training a little bit too early, to the point where I kind of had nowhere to go other than to increase the length of the sprint. And I think one of the things that can impact whether you have a good indoor season, whether you have a good outdoor season, is not only what training you do, but the timing with which you do that training. If you're running PRs in the 60 and it's October, that might be all well and good, but how are you going to maintain that throughout the whole season? Last year I ran 683 in the 60 during October in practice, but then when it came time for season, I could barely run 6.9, and I know that, running outdoors with the free lap, the time is not going to be exactly the same as what you run in competition. I get that. But compared to my other practice times in the same conditions with the same timing system, that 683 was the fastest I had run in a long time. So that was great. I was happy to run 6.8. But then from there, it was really hard to decide what to do, because how do I build upon that? How do I keep pushing myself to run faster when I'm running a near PR time too early in the year? So one thing we can do to make sure that we're peaking at the right time and we're running our best times at the right time of the year is to keep our lifting at a relatively high volume up until a certain point, at which we then drop the volume significantly, keep the intensity high, and that allows us to be more fresh, and then we'll run faster because we're not fatigued systemically from the lifting. So that's one thing you can mess around with, is keeping the lifting in the program closer to season and in season, but keeping like the higher volume lifting work, pushing it maybe into November and December, and then you drop it off going into January, so that way when it's time to compete in the 60, your system is fresh and you've deloaded from that work you've been doing, so you're not fatigued, and then you can run really fast. That's one thing that I've heard Randy Huntington talk about, who is Su Bing Chan's coach, is using lifting to keep yourself a little bit slower earlier in the year, and then removing some of that lifting load, so that way you can then run faster and be more recovered at the right time. He talks about how his goal is not to see PRs in the sprints every single week of the off season and preseason. It's what medal do you win by running super fast in October? You don't. Instead, you can use a combination of lifting and the programming that you use on the track to keep the system a little bit loaded, slightly fatigued, not super fatigued, because we don't want to be overtrained and get hurt or anything like that, but just keep the system kind of overloaded just a little bit, and then at the right time we drop the load, drop the overall volume, keep the intensity high, try to ramp up the intensity, do that leading into the season, and that can set you up to run fast at the right time. So as we go through our season, as we set up programs and things like that, it's important not only to think about what is the right workout to do, what is the right exercise to do, that sort of thing, but what is the right timing for that workout within your progression. If you do this workout in January when you have an indoor session or an indoor meet the next week, that might be a bit much, you know, you might not run very fast at that meet. Whereas if you do this type of work at this time of the year, and then you start to intensify and deload your training leading into the competitive season, that's what's gonna lead to you running fast at the right time. So hopefully this makes sense to you guys. Hopefully this is something that you can benefit from. Make sure to check out the links below. I got a link to my online training group. I also got links to my programs down there, so check those out. And check out my other videos. I posted some videos recently on tempo endurance training. I got one about triple jumping, some workout walkthroughs, things like that. So make sure to check out the content. Follow me on Instagram at ATHLETE.X. But that's all the shilling that I have for today to do. So I'll catch you guys next time. This is Cody Bidlow with SprintingWorkouts.com and ATHLETE.X, signing off.